good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Six Rings Kane Show on a new night, Monday night now, baby. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric McLean on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle. Coach, yes! All right!
First touchdown of the year.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's the Six Ring Kane Show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vish, and DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. You see the Six Ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards of hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
And here we are back again, back at it for our second show of the night, baby. It's all about recruiting this time around. We obviously, if you missed it, we spoke baseball as the new head coach, the 10th head coach of Miami Hurricanes baseball. Jamie Arteaga was announced today, so go check that out for the rewatch crew after you watch this, because we got some really good recruiting news coming at you right now with Blue, DJ, Vish, everybody, the whole crowd. Thank you.
And before,
not to me, by the way. So.
Yeah, why don't you can take a breather there, and
I will misses,
and I'll go ahead and read PrizePicks, which we forgot to do on the last show. So I'll do that while you can deal with your situation over there.
What a great co-host!
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Where's he been the last 2.5 years? For the love of God.
Good question. But anyway, shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks.com. That's the URL, PrizePicks.com. Very simple way to play here. You pick 2 to 5 players. You bet over under on their stat line. The more you bet, the more you can potentially win. The more players you include, and if you hit all of your bets, then you get paid out. And right now, we're offering a deal. If you use the offer code 5, that is FIVE. PrizePicks and 5 Reasons Sports will match your first deposit up to $100. Again, you can get involved in baseball, a lot of good baseball props there right now, and also Jazz and I's pet project over there, Formula One. You can play that as well. Football's around the corner, good time to get into that as well. And then it'll be basketball. We'll be right back around to yelling that we have to fire a coach soon, probably. I'm sure, but it's PrizePicks.com. Offer code 5. That's the word FIVE, and we'll match your first deposit up to $100.
Please don't put that energy out there into the world about having to fire another coach.
Oh, I didn't say we actually had to fire another coach. I'm saying we will be, before you know it, the fans will be calling to fire another coach, which, Mario 12-0 loses the ACC championship game. We got to fire this man.
Yeah, we got unbelievable. Guys, appreciate it. Blue, I know it's been a couple of weeks, man. You've been feels like all over the country, looking at recruits, looking at players out there in these tournaments and these showcases, and these camps, all this good stuff. I know you were out in, correct me if I'm wrong, Gainesville, Florida State, South Florida. Were you at UCF as well? UCF.
West Florida.
Miami. You've been everywhere.
FIU. I went to everywhere. Warner, Kaiser.
Woo, even Kaiser, huh? Jeez.
It's been a long one, and been to Miami 3 times, which I'm pretty proud of.
That's awesome. Were you there this weekend?
I was there yesterday.
Awesome. How'd that go? I want to get right to it because I know we got a big event today.
That was their best one. They had, even though it rained and everybody had to go inside to the indoor. I think they had more kids, they were telling me, than any other camp this year. The marquee kids don't really go anymore. They go, I think Miami's best are the official visits. But I think everybody's like that, talking to Coach Norvell and talking to all the head coaches around the state, they feel that their camps and stuff are mainly for, younger kids or kids trying to, get a little bit of an edge. Other than the one I went to 2 weeks ago when it had the 5 kids from the state of Washington, the Wimberley kid. And they were there to actually just for official visit, but they decided they wanted to work out. But other than that, those the 7-on-7s, though, draw quite a bit. And that piqued everybody's interest, especially yesterday, as you had Central and you had American Heritage, and you had a team that I watched like 4 times already this summer, Orlando Jones, who's stacked, and they ended up beating Central in the finals.
Oh, wow.
And but the whole thing is I got a chance to talk to basically yesterday especially, we talked to Coach Guidry for about 40 minutes. He's a dude. He gets it, and he and I were, he's somewhat younger than me, but he remembers things, he's got a pretty decent memory for players. And we talk Louisiana and, where he's recruiting. And, he says he usually deals with the transfer portal kids when they come in, especially if they're on defense. And then unless he has a kid in his recruiting area. And, but he just said, he shook his head and he said, I'll tell you what, and just in the few months that I've been around, he says, things have just unbelievable. He says things have turned around. He says it's really a business. Yeah. And I was so happy to hear that. And no matter what coaches you talk to, you watch Jason Taylor, guys, and I'm telling you, he looks like he has 50 cents in his bank account for the way he coaches. I'm telling you, this guy knows everything, and he's a difference maker because he's going to take those tough kids, the kids that are looking at Ohio State and Alabama, and he's going to sway 1 or 2 of them because of the fact that not just because who he is, but just because of what he knows. And, when he goes into a living room, mom and dad are like in awe, because they watched him. The kid may not, other than maybe Googling him, because most of those kids they were like little kids when he played. But the parents know, and, and sometimes when the parents making a decision say, listen, I think you may want to let coach, teach you a little bit more. And then you look at Tim Harris and you look at, I'll tell you what, I've known Kevin Beard a long time. And I think that Kevin Beard is so refreshing in the fact that he'll tell you like it is. He told me in the spring that Ray was not given the effort that he needed to give. But then he told me when he was. And I like a coach like that. You already know in Mirabal you got a guy, and I talk to him all the time, and he pointed out all the offensive linemen and got a chance to – you look at like guys like Okunlolo, and you look at what's his name? I can't think. Maugoa. They're men. They're men. They're 18-year-old men. You stand next to those guys, and I talked to him for a little bit yesterday. I talked to Okunlolo for about 10 minutes. And Jesus.
This thing has transformed, huh? From a physical standpoint as well, right?
But I'm talking about just the demeanor. So, you're talking to a 26-year-old kid. That's what you think, a kid, it's like talking to Lou Headley.
Right.
But it's amazing how, and I'm not saying it's not going on everywhere. I had Gary Furman on our show tonight, and we talked about that. It's happening everywhere. FSU, when I was up there, great place, guys. He's done a great job. I'm not a big, I don't hate anybody, but you got to call it how it is. And Miami's on their way there. And, I always get this question, what if Mario don't work out? Then they're going to close the program. That's plain and simple because he's the guy. Who else are you going to get with the qualifications that he has? Nobody. He's a Miami guy. He's prideful. He's knowledgeable. He's got contacts all over the country. They're not pigeonholed. And that's one of the things that I keep telling parents. Oh, we got to get more kids from down here. No, we don't. We got to get kids. Don't pigeonhole yourself just because they're from Dade or Broward County.
Amen to that.
You got kids from all over the country. And now you look, and this is the big discussion that I had yesterday, with Coach Guidry. You go after the best dude. I don't care if he's from Anchorage. What's the difference? Sure, you like to have kids, but if you look at Miami's roster, they got plenty of guys from here. Yeah, how many do you want? It's a global university to begin with, and you got a lot of drawing power. And I like the fact that, even I wasn't here for Legends Day, but I was told that it wasn't going to be as good. And then when it happened, I heard it exceeded expectation because they got kids here, but they got the legends here. And that's always important. These kids want to identify, with because they're going to wear the same uniform as those guys did. The same thing that we were talking about stadiums. Now, it doesn't bother me that Miami's playing in the Hard Rock because where you going to either you go 12 miles at the Hard Rock or 6 miles to Bird Road in the Palmetto. So what's the difference? And then at the Hard Rock, when you take kids on visits there, and they go, oh yeah, by the way, Dan Marino played here, and this is where Tua plays, and so it does. And it's a gorgeous stadium, and it's state of the art, and it's beautiful, and so I'm not worried about that because they're not recruiting that. But what they are recruiting is on campus stuff, and that's where they have to keep up with the Joneses, and that's what I found by going to Florida, who may have the nicest facility in the country that they just got done building. So that makes a difference. Even though there are stadiums across the street, they're not spending time in their stadium. They're spending it in their facilities and weight training facilities, pools, all that stuff. And Miami's going to build that. I talked to a couple of people yesterday, that
it's on its way, Canes fans.
It is on its way because I talked to a couple of people. They're going to break ground. They believe in the mid-fall, and it's just going to be on that side, not the side of the Cobb. I thought it was going to be on the Cobb side, but it's going to be on the other side.
Oh, where the intramural fields are?
Yeah, no, it's going to be adjacent to where the little hospital thing is across. So it's going to go down the side of Green Tree, and and they're going to build it back towards the tennis center, and so it's going to be real nice, and they're going to make it. Like I was telling Coach Mirabal, he had asked me, well, what's that Florida one look like? And I said, you know what, the SEC teams, they build buildings, and they've got, you look at those teams like them in Alabama, they're state supported, so they got one plus there. So when they fundraise, they also get money from the state. Miami doesn't. They get grants and, the John Ruizes of the world, but most likely you got to fundraise here. And But I think I just look at the roster, and I even said to Coach Guidry, I said, you got 36 new faces on that roster. How do you know? I said, I couldn't even tell you how they're going to do this year. I mean, how can you say, they're going to win 4 games. They're going to win 9 games. How? How do you know? They're deeper at every single position now than they were a year ago. If you're going to go off of last year,
that's huge.
You're making a mistake if you're going off of last year. And looking at like the Aguirres and guys like who was like an official, he was a referee yesterday, and some of those incoming freshmen, come on. These kids are going to be impact over the next 2 years. I mean, I looked at a lot of these guys that have in the transfer portal because they're on campus working out. So they're catching themselves a few extra dollars by being, referees in those 7-on-7 games. Why not? I saw Restrepo, leadership, wherever he seemed to gravitate, everybody went towards. It's a whole different ball game. And if you're a Hurricane fan, I'm not real sure if you could judge by wins and losses this year. But I'll tell you,
Vish has said that a lot. Vish has actually said that a lot this year. I think a lot of us have said that a lot. That if you think that if you're going to go into this year and say, "Wow, they had such a terrible year, they went 8-4," you got another thing coming to you. I mean, that's a huge improvement, and
Yeah.
that shows growth. It shows what you're talking about.
Well,
right?
100%.
a lot of it's also how you play in wins and losses. I mean, last year was a 5-win team that in a couple of those wins, which is so atrocious that
Virginia?
you could. I mean, Virginia. I mean, I went to that game and sat there and waited through 5 hours of crap to not see a touchdown scored, and but that's a
Yeah.
win, right? So it's very possible to put up, like Jazz says, 7 or 8 wins and be significantly better because your wins don't look like that. There was one game all year that they looked good in, and that was Georgia Tech. Everything else was like a slug. It was gut this out to get the win. Even Virginia Tech was dominating early, almost blew it in the end. Like, it's just, it was ugly in the wins. It was uglier in a lot of the losses. And so you can improve a lot without the record getting that much better.
Yeah,
And I saw this one thing where, forget what it was from. It was like teams that'll have the biggest improvement in record. And we were on there. And I'm like, I don't know, because that was a bad 5-7. Like, it could have been worse. And, you know, it's not easy to win 10 games on our schedule. And so how many wins are you really going to improve? Like Jazz says, 8 wins with playing better. Like, imagine if you lose to Clemson, but you lose by a field goal. That's still a loss. Last year, got 90-something yards against them. Right? If you go in there and you go toe-to-toe a couple of short, it's still the same record.
Yeah.
But the program is moved. And that's actually, when you start being competitive in those games, you're not going to win them immediately. If you look at right before we took off at the turn of the century, it's been that long. The year before that, we lost 4 times, but it was losing at the number 1 team in the country, Florida State, leading in the second half, really pushing them. Virginia Tech were up early and then got a bunch of injuries and got blown out. It was, the bad one was East Carolina, where blew a 20-point lead. But then also the Penn State game was number 2 in the country. Got stuffed on 4th and 1, although we probably made it, but there was no replay back then. They didn't respot the ball, and they threw an 80-yard touchdown the next play and lost. So it was 9-4, and it was very similar to the record from the previous year. But you could see, like, all right, these are the best teams of the country they're now going toe-to-toe with.
Yep.
They just got to get over the hump. And you could actually see, because lost to Washington at the beginning of the last year on the road. Again, that was a top 5 team. And then that Florida State game, where up by 20, blew the lead, and then came back and won. That was just them getting over that hump. And from there, it was just killing people. Like, overnight, because people came out of that Florida State game saying Miami pulled it at the end. Florida State might still be better, even though they thought we should be ranked higher. By the end of the year, there was no question, because once you got into that mindset of winning, but it takes pain to get there. And I think, you know, people just think it's like flipping a switch. And, you know, Alabama was losing to Louisiana Monroe's before they kind of built that program out. Now they're a machine.
Yep.
And every program on their way to the top has bad losses and, frankly, good losses where you're like, oh, this team is really starting to get it. They're just, you know, you need to make that next step. And all of those are still going to count as losses. So it's not going to always be, you know, enjoyable, but, you know, it'll happen.
If things fall into place, you can see what happens. You know, it's kind of crazy. You look at FSU 2 years ago, and they were a joke. They were a joke. Listen, when I was up there, I looked at that schedule, and I know it sounds funny. They could go unbeaten. With a break here and there against Clemson and LSU, they could go unbeaten. You know, and that's the craziness of college football, where things can turn around so quickly. And I think that Miami is building a better foundation than FSU has. That's the best thing about it.
Wow.
I mean, that's what I think. I mean, because I look at those guys that they're bringing in. Yeah, you missed the baseball talk. Where the
That's
hell
why
were
you
you?
can go back and watch it on the rewatch.
There'll also be an audio version on the podcast after I bring it down and cut it later. So
Yeah, but so my point is this. The reality of it is Miami had, and I'm writing something for tomorrow, how the coaching staff has changed the entire deal. They have. And I said that to Guidry. I said, what a difference. This coaching staff all wants to be here. And, you know, I mean, and everybody's like-minded to Mario now.
Right.
None of this.
That's important.
Huh?
That's important. That's the most
Yeah,
important.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. There was a lot of guys last year that Mario would get in here at 4:30 in the morning and leave at 12 midnight. And a lot of guys would straggle in at like 8 o'clock and leave like 10 o'clock at night. And that all kind of registered with Mario. By the end of the year, when he had to get rid of everybody, he didn't feel so bad because of the fact that, hey, you know what, Charlie, don't let the door hit you in the ass. But you didn't do what I want, that what's going to help us win. You look at guys like Tim Harris, and you look at guys like Nicholson, and you look at all those coaches that they have on hand now. They're all like that. I mean, here's Jason Taylor, who's got two little young kids with a new wife, and Jazz just went out.
And I think he was dealing with this Kleenex situation there. Jazz is playing hurt tonight. So
yeah,
I'm on the IL, but I'm here, man. I'm here.
No, I hear you, man. But no, that's my say. So I just figured.
Blue,
go ahead. Let's talk about the recruits.
I wanted to talk about the recruit, but first of all, before we get to that, your top 4 or 5 guys that you saw this weekend compete yesterday at the camp. I know there's wide receivers like Ja'Cory Barney, who's now really climbing up the recruiting ladder, and that's a guy that could be on commitment watch for Miami. He's a really, really, really good wide receiver. LaWayne McCoy is another one. Some other guys, right? Who are
Josiah Trader look really, really good.
Oh, that's a given, right?
But, I know, but still,
some of the guys that you saw that you're like that kind of stood out to you.
Well, you mentioned a couple of them right there. Barney looked really, really good in the camp setting. So did Trader. Also, the wide receiver Vernell Brown from Orlando Jones, who appeared at the first to be a Gator legacy, but not so much. His dad went there, his uncle went there, but he really dazzled last. You got to remember when they played those 7-on-7s, those coaches are all ears, man. They're everywhere. That's why, watching guys like Malachi Tony and, from the American Heritage and, seeing those defensive backs perform like Jaquan Patterson and, even though he may be looking like he's going to go somewhere else, it's just events like that where they start taking the kids upstairs and, talking with their parents and saying, listen, I see you're going to Florida State, and I can respect that. But look at what we got. Look at what we're going to have. And you got to stay close to home. So those type of guys like that, I think that, they had some visitors in, from outside the area. You mentioned the kid Mack, who's a legacy. His dad, Rod, used to play linebacker for Miami. From Monsignor Pace. In fact, I saw him the other day. And you know what? I had a chance up in Gainesville to talk to Darren Smith, former Cane, who's on the coaching staff at Chaminade now. And he was telling me, he says, listen, he always preaches Canes. He always talks a little bit about, he says, it's tough for me to be here in Gainesville and talk about the Canes. He said, but let me tell you something. He says, I see a lot, he says, when I go down there, I see a lot of kids that have an opportunity to be pretty special. And, him being at there, and then you got guys, who are all over the place that are preaching Miami. And that helps. And some of those recruits, like you mentioned, or Mac and guys like of that nature, I mean, they're the next wave. And that's the one thing that the fans have to understand, that these coaches not only, watch, film, but those 7-on-7s where they may not appear valuable, they are, because it's real football playing. It's twitch, it's, catching, it's covering, it's not hitting, but you could tell a whole lot. And you could see, I think what they had is they had their assignments yesterday, because I saw all the coaches all over the fields, Adai, all those guys like that, just checking things out. And that's how you recruit. And that's why you have these events on your campus.
So you mentioned Mack, Ryan Mack, obviously their latest commitment today for the University of Miami. Versatile defensive back out of St. Thomas Aquinas, obviously a legacy kid as well. But the kid that could play all over the field in the backfield, right? Defensive backfield. Very
Probably a
talented
better
player.
safety.
Sure. But if he had to, he could maybe put him in the slot.
Yeah.
Or something. So talk to me a little bit about obviously the legacy, the lineage is there with his dad playing at Miami. Talk to me a little bit about what you see in Mack and how he could be a good productive player here for Miami.
Instinctive football player, and the knowledge of being around the game all his life and having played it at a high level at the high school level. And also he was part of that national championship team that won with the youth team, with the Chaminade kids and, him and, with the Ravens, with the Miami Gardens Ravens. So he's been around this game
Purple
at an
machine,
elite.
baby, the purple machine.
Yeah, the purple machine. But they've been at this level he's been at this level for a long time. So obviously it's a kid that's going to make the transition. And things, I'm telling you, you get recruits like that and people don't realize that the experience of being around the game and playing it at a high level sometimes cuts through the fact that he's not 6'2", 210. Because he's kind of been around. And yeah, I have a feeling that from what I heard, Miami's got a chance to pick up a couple of just during this holiday because everybody's on vacation now.
Well, yeah, the debt period as well starts July 1st. So
yeah, so they're all on vacation, but still, if a kid calls up and say, "Hey, listen, I want to commit," from a you're not going to say, "Hey, no, wait till I get back from Japan," what I mean? But that's the whole thing. That's where everybody is. DJ, I saw you lifting 200 pounds. I ain't going to come across your ass anymore.
I know, man. I was going to mention it, too. He's kicking. He can bench more than I can right now.
I got to say, I'm pretty sore right now.
Yeah, I watched you doing that, man. Jesus. I said,
that's why I'm
just
letting
DJ
you talk
off,
tonight.
that's for sure.
That's why I'm just letting you talk. Have me take a little snooze, listen to some good recruiting stories. And
just let your ass stay in Boston. Don't come on down here.
It's too hot down there this time of year.
Oh, tell me about it. Don't even get me started.
I still don't see your ceiling fan moving, so it's still got to
be
cool.
The air conditioning on over here. We got
okay.
Central AC. So.
I can always tell when it's sweltering in Beantown.
I'll have to turn on the fan just for you. I'll have to turn on the fan next
I haven't been there like 25, 30 years, but all I remember is when I went there was a Dunkin' Donuts on like every corner.
Oh, yeah, there's a Dunkin' Donuts everywhere. All over New England. All over New England.
DJ's
Why? What am I doing over here?
Vish doesn't look excited about our recruiting stories. I think that's it.
I do. I got to. They're buzzing me, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. Take care.
We appreciate it. We'll talk a little. We'll go a little.
Yeah, next week when we get we'll do this Monday night. We'll go 8:30 and 9:30, and we'll get more in depth. But let's write down a bunch of names for next week, and we'll see how they are. Because this might be the best time because it's going to be slower.
Yep.
But there's still a lot of kids out there.
Oh, no. That period is just dead for coaches. It's not for us. That's for sure. So,
like I said to Billy Napier, I says, we got to get you on the show. And he says, when I get back from Greece.
Yeah. Well, while he's in Greece, guess where Mario is? He ain't in Greece.
He's right there eating at the. By the way, Chris Maribal told me the best Cuban sandwich is that sandwich. Have you ever been there?
Yeah. It's pretty damn good. You gotta have to check it out.
He says the best Cuban sandwich. All right, guys, we're gonna go. I'll see you next week.
You got it,
later, Blue. Have a good one,
man. Thank you. Bye.
See you, Blue. All right, so what did I do here?
I don't know, man.
Is it because I'm watching LSU beat the crap out of Florida off the court over here?
This is a beautiful thing.
I've been half watching that, just half like enjoying what I'm seeing here. They just like misplayed a pop up. This is glorious.
Oh, this is great. I love it.
So that might be what the comment was about. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, all things considered.
Right.
rather the Canes be playing in this game, but
no kidding.
Watching Florida,
we wouldn't be sitting here doing this show right now.
Yeah, but watching Florida lose a championship game is not too bad.
No, that'll be good for second place there. DJ, what are your thoughts, man, on Ryan Mack?
Ryan Mack, very fast corner, and I noticed, Miami's taking a lot of speed guys defensively. They want speed on the defensive side of the football, and Mack is very, like Blue said, he's a very instinctive player, and that speed, lends itself to not necessarily, I'm not saying he's going to play all over the field, but it allows Miami to kind of have some flexibility to where they can play him, or where he can line up in certain formations. So I really like the addition of Mac. Like you guys said, that championship experience he had at the high school level. I mean, that means a lot. I mean, it's nothing to gloss over. I mean, you want to have kids who have been in battle tested situations on your football team. I mean, especially if you have aspirations of having a winning season, or for some programs going to the college, football playoff championship or whatever. So, I mean, I'm excited for Mac. I think his speed will be very, interesting to watch, and I feel as though in a game that's becoming more offensive and more quarterback and wide receiver friendly, speed at the corner position is almost a must these days.
You know, Vish, I kind of want to get your take on this because I love it when a legacy player comes in and plays, obviously for for Miami. But this kid's a real deal, right? He's a 4 star. You know, I know a lot of people don't care about stars, but as 52 Biggie said, they're calling us 3 star you fellas. I'm not worried about no damn stars. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But the truth is, some of these 3 stars, they're gonna end up being 4 stars anyway. So, like he said, I'm not too worried about that. What I do like about it is that he's a buck 70, but he's 6'1", 6'2" already. So he's gonna grow into that frame, and we're going and getting someone from St. Thomas again, which we haven't gotten in maybe a year or two. I'm not even too sure, to be honest with you, about that. But always diving into St. Thomas, one of the best teams in the country in high school, is huge. So I'm super excited about having Ryan Mack on the team.
Yeah, and St. Thomas has always been a bit of an enigma for us. We have gotten kids out of there, but never as many as you feel we should.
Yeah.
Like you said, one of the dominant programs in the country that just churns out D1 high level FBS prospects, and we get some, but not as many as you figure we should be cleaning up there. So, like you said, it's always good to do that to hopefully build that pipeline. The other thing, talking about the stars and Mac in particular, the way you get to the point where you're getting all these 4 and 5 stars in here is to take, like you said, the 3 stars and that are actually 4 stars. They're under the radar a little bit, and then develop them into 4 and 5 star caliber. Because again, we talked about this, I think, last week, but until you start winning games, there's a ceiling on what you can do recruiting wise. And we're probably gently brushing up against that at this point. And these are big gets. And I know, we tend to look for reasons to dismiss our recruiting, to be negative and let them, it's a legacy, but it's like you said, it's a big time kid. And these are the ones you got to get. Like when you have that, you got to use whatever you can to your advantage. And, having a legacy, that's an advantage. You got to take advantage of it. And even when Blue was talking about the stadium and, it's not on campus. Okay, but the Dolphins play here. Right? I mean, you got to sell what you got.
World-class stadium.
Yeah, you got to sell what you got. Yeah, the Dolphins aren't playing in Gainesville. They're playing here in our stadium. And actually, there's that 30 for 30 documentary ESPN did on SMU, and they were interviewing the coach at the time. And
That's
they had it's called Pony Excess, but they're talking about, because they were playing on campus. He said, screw that, and they moved the game to Texas Stadium where the Cowboys play. He said, I did that because it made it so much easier to recruit, because I could say, look, NFL plays here. You're going to be in the NFL one day. You're going to follow in their footsteps. We're going to play in an NFL stadium. And that took them off campus. Is kind of the opposite of what people want us to do here. And he sold it.
Taylor Phillips is such a stud.
Yeah.
Playing in his home.
Playing in his home. But, I mean, that's what you sell, right? Like, if we had an elite stadium on campus, that's what we'd sell. But, you sell what you got. So for back, coming full circle back to why we take Mac like this and, like, how you have to get that. That's a hometown kid that has ties to the program. You got to land that talent, right? And we did that. We did that.
Says several great relationships with top targets, and that's huge because you need some ambassadors like you always do. Every year you need those ambassadors,
and that's the cascading. Get the legacy. Now let him pull more in, and that's how you build it.
Amen. I hear that.
Peer recruiting is very important. You're seeing it more and more, obviously, on social media. Hearing what the program is like or what a particular player is going to do. That's your age. I think it resonates with a lot of recruits and commits. And I think kind of team building in a way by landing these kids and getting these kids on campus and working together. That's important too.
I agree. Give me a second. Oh man, struggling. I think that's all, folks.
Jazz has powered through a doubleheader here to
I'm struggling.
damn coach. You know what? They got me too. Gino quit when I was on my sick bed. I had to come do the show.
I know.
They wait 2 weeks and wait for you to get sick and then hire JD.
Unbelievable. Anyways, thankfully I'm getting better, a lot better already. It's just the congestion. It's so hard to talk for a long amount of time because then it's congestion. But anyways, who cares about that?
Good thing we have Blue.
Yeah. Blue held up his end there.
Yeah,
we did. We'll be back next Monday though. We'll have some more recruiting news. We'll, like as Blue said, we'll kind of get down and dirty with some of these players that are going to be committing, and it's the day before. July 4th as well. So I don't have to work the next day. I get to party in a pool all day. That's what I'm doing. All right, and having some libations, lowering my faculties a little bit, and enjoy the fireworks. Make sure you check us out on on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes. But you can also watch us on YouTube on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you subscribe. Check us out there. If you missed it earlier, we had a hell of a show. And it looks like I'm back in the. Oh, congratulations, my man!
Congrats, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
I'm jealous. I wish I was back in that game. Unbelievable. I love it. So shout out to Poke for that, man. That's awesome. That's awesome, brother. And Poke and the rest of you who didn't catch the baseball show, you're definitely gonna want to catch that. It was definitely a banger. We talked a lot about JD and how much we love him and how much we hate everybody else. No, I'm just kidding. But
I mean,
kind of
not that explicitly, but
but some really good information there on JD staying on as Miami's head coach for Canes baseball. So make sure you check that out. And of course, the Rewatch Clan, we appreciate you watching us here as well to talk a little recruiting. DJ, Vish.
Just real quick update. LSU was up 10-2 in the top of the 7th here.
Doing the Lord's work, Daddy.
Bases are loaded. Ugh. He's down 0-2 though, so they might not catch.
With Travinsky up, who probably took over for Milazzo because
and it is they're out hitting Florida 15-2.
This is how you know you're baseball degenerates, that you know the guys for every other team as well.
Yeah,
you're like Travinsky for Milazzo because he got hurt. That's degenerate talk right there, baby.
I mean, the game they should hold on anyway, but love to see them pile on more here.
Oh, that would be great.
Anyway,
well, Tigers. All right. We'll see you guys next Monday. See you later.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show.